Hello, today we are talking with Olga Rozin. She is a brand specialist, a website designer, and a business coach. Olga, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Olga, I have met you already for some times. I met you at a networking event, and I have seen you at several of them. So, for me, it's a privilege to know more about your life and to tell the other listeners what is it that you do. So, can you tell us a little bit about you and your different businesses?
Yeah, so I am, as you mentioned, I'm a branding specialist, I'm a web designer and a coach. And basically, I help entrepreneurs make big projects like a website, right? A website or even a branding project. There's so much detail, there's so much that goes into that. So I help make that an easy experience. And that's where my coaching comes in. So I have a coach approach where I basically guide my clients through every step of the way. So they always know what they need to do, and when and how, which makes the whole project move through very smoothly.
So can you tell us a little bit about your history? How I assume you started with brand design first, but I'm just assuming, I'm just guessing. How do you start to work by yourself, and what were the first few steps that you took?
Yeah, so actually, I would say officially, I have my business for about 2 years, but the journey started way before. So it started about 6 years ago. And what happened is that my background is actually in the arts. So I'm also a trained singer. And at the time when I was in university, I would do different projects, like artistic, creative projects. And so I started playing with like little landing pages for this project or that project. And finally, one of my friends was launching a yoga studio and she needed a web designer. And I did it for her for free, just for fun. And she had a large team, so we had to talk a lot about strategy, all the different service providers and what they do, like the different yoga teachers, different like healing modalities and whatnot. So that was such an enriching moment for me. And from there, I started having this idea that, wait, this is something I could actually do. This could actually be, a profession for me. And coming to this today, I see how it really uh, brings together all these different aspects that I love. First of all, I'm passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about this moment, like the light bulb that hits us, and we're like, oh, I have this idea. Like, can I make this happen? Like this is where I thrive. And of course, there's that creative aspect of the actual design, coming up with the logo, the colors, and just making the website look really, really beautiful. And the connection that I have with my clients. So it's really enriching, and every step of the way, I've seen just how, yes, at times challenging it is, but also how rewarding it is. And it honestly just kind of happened. Sometimes they say, sometimes you go after something, but at other times things find you. And I
Mhm.
feel like web design found me, and it became so much more than I would have thought that it would be.
Okay, well, in regards to entrepreneurship, I know that there are two kind of people. The kind of people that say, I could never be an entrepreneur. I mean, I have a whole bunch of ideas, but I really love my paycheck. I could never live with the uncertainty of what's going to happen next month, if clients are going to pay me or not, if I'm going to have enough work. And then there's the entrepreneurs like you and me who say, "Oh, I could never be an employee. I have to create my own journey, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes, but I need to be in control of my life." And from our few minutes of conversation, I gather you are the later, that you want to have control of your life. But do you know how was born in you?
Oh my gosh. Honestly, I feel like it was very natural to me. First of all, my older brother is an entrepreneur. He has his own business. So, and he's had it for several years now. So I definitely had a role model in that. But also, I mentioned something earlier. I said that I come from an artistic background, and I always draw the parallel between being an artist and being an entrepreneur. And I don't think that they are that far away from one another. So having been an artist, I've gotten accustomed to living with a certain level of uncertainty. But there is one moment where I will correct you a little bit, okay, if that's okay, because I will never say that, um, I wouldn't say that I would never live for a paycheck, for a job. And I think that for an entrepreneur, it's a very important, um, um, maybe element of your mindset, because you know what, there are times when maybe you need a part-time job, right? There are times when you're figuring something out, you're not failing, like you're still, going at your business, you're giving it your 150%. But sometimes, you need to pivot, or you're going through some kind of shift, and there is nothing wrong with getting that additional support. So, if I need to get a job because I'm pivoting and I'm still figuring something out, I will do it.
Right,
But while I'm getting that paycheck, I will know that it's going for this purpose, right? To eventually not have that. Because yes, now I'm a full-time entrepreneur, but I had times, when I got a job, or I had times when I was like, maybe I will need to get a job,
right.
And so there's always this play. I think there's a level of maturity that happens over time where you can rely on the income from your business more and more, and you gain that stability. It just takes time, so it's important to have a little bit of that flexibility, right?
Right,
And
right.
the
Oh,
willingness to do whatever it
that makes
takes.
perfect sense. Okay, so I have two questions for you. Number one, what's the part of your job that you love the most? And second, what are some of the challenges that you have overcome? Because I assume it hasn't been easy all the time. So yeah, what do you love and challenges that have been on your way that you have somehow conquered?
Mm-hmm. There is so much that I love about my job. I don't know if I can limit it to one thing, so I'll have two short things. One of them, of course, is working on the creative design, right? Because when I work on a website, I basically have two options for clients. So I have an option of working from a template, which I still love. I will not complain about it at all. It's amazing. It's fun. But then there's another option of creating a completely unique, one of a kind website that nobody else will ever have. And so, in that kind of project, I get to really take in the full essence of who my client is. And so, getting that essence and putting it down on the digital screen, and then hearing the words, oh my god, this is who I am, like I see myself reflected in this, or I showed it to clients, I showed it to people who know me, and like this is me, right? I love this moment, I live for this moment. And then another one that I love is during coaching or consulting, when my clients are stuck somewhere, and then as we kind of chew on the issue and we try to get to the core of what's going on, and at some point they have this aha moment, right? Where like at the beginning of the call, it felt like this thing was impossible. And then towards the end, they say, oh, okay, wait, I can actually do this. Like, I thought it was so difficult, but wait, aha, I get this now. And I love those moments too. So I would say
Well,
these are my favorite parts.
okay, well, that's your favorite parts and some of your challenges.
Right. So um it was really interesting because before our call you asked me what I didn't like, and I told you that there was nothing that I
Right.
that I didn't like. And so in terms of challenges, I would say, depending on where I was in my business journey, I've gone through different challenges. But one of my challenges in 2023, earlier this year, was actually pivoting in my offering structure. And I realized that, my structure was my offering was a little bit too rigid. And it has cost me, first of all, a lot of time, a lot of energy of my own, but also it cost me sales, right? So that's where I had to pivot. I had to reflect about, how can I gain more flexibility? What else can I offer? And I did ended up coming up with a very nice structure, and it's night and day right now.
Wow, that's amazing. I wish we had 2 hours to talk about some of the issues that you have brought up, but we will
Yeah.
have other opportunities.
Oh
This
yeah, I'm
video
happy to talk about it anytime.
this video is being watched by people who are contemplating becoming an entrepreneur at one time, or maybe some people who are already in their journey but would like to know how other people are doing. So, what would be one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is contemplating, should I go on business by myself? Should I start a business? What would you say to a person like that?
The main advice that I would give is be patient and kind with yourself. Patient and kind. Because when we get an idea, it's always, again, it always feels really big. It feels bigger than who we are, because it is. Like, a business idea is asking you to stretch yourself, right? And so sometimes we get into this place where, like, our brain is like, oh, but I don't know how to do this. Like, what are you talking about? You want to do this? We've never done this. How, right? So and that's where you want to really give yourself time. Take it slow, take it one little step at a time, and don't try to know everything and figure everything out. And on the same note, what I would say is, don't allow your lack of knowledge and even your lack of skill to stop you from starting.
Right.
Because sometimes we think, oh, I need to know this, I need to figure this. But did you know that you can get paid while you're learning? And this is how successful entrepreneurs start. And one thing that's important to keep in mind, and what I reminded to myself, is that consistently, is that there is always somebody who needs your services at your level, where you are, right? So even if your skill is not, where you would envision yourself one day, or you're comparing yourself to somebody who's been doing this for like 3, 5, 10 years, it's okay, right? But even now, if I compare my very first website to my latest project, like, it's a whole other world, right? So maybe another way to put it is, like, be okay with not being that great in the beginning,
Right.
and know that you will improve. But another piece is that you do need to know, do I have the inclination for that, right? Do I actually have the potential for that? Because I've always done arts in my life. I've always painted, drawn, since I was a kid. So I knew that design was a comfortable avenue for me. And also, I've always been into technology, and I've always been comfortable with technology. So was I a great web designer since the beginning? No, but I had all the right pieces, right? So you want to ask yourself, yes, do I have the right pieces to give me the chance
Right.
that I need, right? The opportunity. And if the answer is yes, then be gentle, take it slow, take your time. It takes years, but eventually you will get there.
Well, this is some of the feedback that I've been getting from other interviews. Start slower, slowly, take it one step at a time. So I think it's very accurate. And sometimes we get confused when we see people in Instagram or in other social media that they are already at a high level, but they are high level because they have been doing it already for 10 years plus. And it's unrealistic for someone who's going to start a business, let's say website design or whatever, to compare yourself with that person who has already achieved fame and glory and have a baggage of years of experience. So yeah, what you say is start slow, take it one step at a time, makes perfect sense. And there's always a client for the level where you are. So it's just,
Yeah,
I think it's a great piece of advice.
thank you.
Okay, so the last question is, how can people get in touch with you? Someone wants a website, someone wants some coaching, someone wants to talk to you about how they should do the logo for the business card. I don't know. How can someone get in touch with you?
Yes, so there are multiple ways to get in touch with me. There's Instagram, my website, and my email. So for Instagram, it's just going to be branding_motion.
Oh, that will be in the show notes, but yeah.
Exactly. For my website, it's brandingmotion.ca, and for my email, it's contact@brandingmotion.ca.
Olga, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.